Hope you guys have had a great day so far. Is anybody enjoying the weather? Yeah, that's good. I love Thursdays. Does anyone else just love Thursday? You guys kind of feel me on that? A few of you. Just the feel. Sometimes the feeling of Thursday, knowing that Friday is coming, is just a great feeling. If I haven't got a chance to meet you yet, my name is Alex Rebeck. I serve on staff here with STUMO at K-State. I went here, got my degree in accounting. After I graduated, I worked a couple tax seasons, and then I've been working on staff. Or I came on staff after that, and I've been here for about the past 6 years. This is a picture of my wife Anna and I. Thank you, thank you. We're at a Fred's wedding here. I don't know if you can tell. I think blue's our color. Is blue our color? It's a pretty good picture. She's incredible. She's better than me at just about everything. Not gonna lie, except I'm a better eater than she is, but that's okay. I don't know much, but I do know how to marry an incredible girl. So guys, if you need tips on how to marry an incredible girl, I make no apologies. Come see me after. I don't even charge, okay? Come talk to me afterwards. She's incredible. She was a Kappa here. I was on the team. This is funny, though. We actually both lived in Haymaker at the same time, one floor away. Didn't even know it until 7 years later when we began to date and we found that out. Kind of crazy. God has a sense of humor. But we love what we do. We love Manhattan. We love getting to work with college students. I'm originally from St. Louis, so I am a Cardinal fan. I hope you don't hold that against me. I do. Thank you. All right, there's one other Cardinal fan in here. That's good. I just excluded the entire crowd. I do think we're winning tonight, though, just so you know. I do like the Royals, though. I do appreciate the Royals. Anyway, that's a little bit about me. But I did want to start off tonight by asking the question, have you ever thought a certain way about something, but it ended up being not what you thought? Or have you ever thought a certain way about someone, and then they ended up not being what you thought? Have you ever thought a certain way about something or someone, and then it just ended up different? You guys, has that ever happened to you? Yeah, I think there's a lot of things in our world where we think a certain way, but then it ends up different. They're not what we thought. And so what we're going to do to kind of illustrate this is we're going to have a little game. It's a game of true or false, okay? And I'm going to put a few different statements up here, and I just want you to shout out whether you think it's true or false. And I think we're going to see a lot of things are not necessarily what we thought. Cool? Cool, all right, appreciate that. Number one, true or false? Humans only have 5 senses. Man, apparently I'm the only one out of the loop here. It's true, false. Or, sorry, you know what I meant. You're correct, it's false. There's sight, smell, taste, touch, and hearing, but humans can also sense a ton of other stuff like balance, acceleration, pain, and temperature, among other things. Apparently I'm the only one that thought we had 5 senses. I apologize. Next one here, true or false? Chameleons change color to blend in with their environment. False. They change color to communicate. A chameleon's color is used to signal mood, aggression, territory, and mating behavior. Not what you thought. Another one here, true or false? Redheads are going extinct. Have you got, I'm not the, we've all heard, we've all heard this before, all right? And I am a redhead. Some people say I'm not, but when I got here, I was a redhead. It's changing color, but I still claim that I'm a redhead, all right? False. If everyone who carries the redhead or blonde gene dies or fails to reproduce, then the hair colors will disappear. But that will probably never happen, all right? It's false. It's not what you thought. We're not going extinct. We're going to be around a while. What about this one? True or false? The 5-second rule actually works. All right? I'm a little bit of a germaphobe, and so if you are, this might make you squeal a little bit like it makes me. False. Floors are generally filthy. Salmonella, for example, can lurk in the cracks between tiles for weeks. Even if you mopped up recently, you can retrieve your morsel in 1/10 of a second, and it wouldn't make a blind bit of difference. Not what you thought. The 5-second rule doesn't work. Some of you guys are unfazed. No, it doesn't matter. Some of you guys are unfazed. Have you guys heard about this? True or false? It's cool to roll your socks halfway down. See my man Tommy Brady after the show. Tommy says true. Apparently it's cool now. Not what you thought. At least not what I ever thought. Anyone doing that right now? All right. Apparently it's cool now. Not what you thought. Last one here, true or false? Odell Beckham is worth $95 million. True. His new contract is for $95 million, and 65 of it is guaranteed. I knew Odell was worth a lot of money, but I did not know that much. Not what you thought. Yeah, Aaron Rodgers just exceeded that pretty crazy. A lot of things in our world, a lot of things in life, a lot of things on the college campus are not what we thought. A lot of things end up that way. I think we've all experienced that. And I think the same is true with our faith. A lot of times things aren't necessarily what we thought. A lot of times following God or growing in our faith or pursuing our faith or taking that next step is not what we thought. It's actually something different. I didn't grow up in a spiritual home, great family, great parents. We just weren't really spiritual. Therefore, I wasn't really spiritual. It's not like I hated God or was against God. I just hadn't really thought about it much. And I didn't really know where I stood on the issue. But I just wasn't really spiritual. But because of the movies I watched, some of the music I had listened to, and then just some late night convos with my friends, I had formed some thoughts about God. And you guys have those late night talks with your friends, you end up talking about God. I had formed some thoughts. And they weren't necessarily true or correct thoughts. And so one thought I think I had this just from talking with my buddies, was that if you grew in your faith, or if you pursued your faith, or if you developed in it in any sort of way, you're just a little bit like weird. That's what I thought. You had to be a little bit weird. You had to be a little bit off. And so because I thought that, I didn't pursue God like I ought. And I also thought, well, maybe if you weren't weird, but if you did follow God, if you grew in your faith, you were probably just a little bit soft. You probably just weren't a macho, tough guy. And so because I wanted to be tough, I didn't want to be weird, and I was weird, I didn't pursue God like I ought to, right? And those thoughts that I had kept me from pursuing God. But then I get here my freshman year, I walk on the team. This is a picture of me then on the left. Looking like a boss, I know. Not quite. This was our quarterback on the team on the right of the couch. I don't know what I was doing there. I don't even know who took that picture. But I walk on the team here, and it's like day 1 or 2 of me getting here. And outside my dorm room, Haymaker 435, I meet this guy. He's a junior. I'm a freshman, and we just strike up this conversation. Come to find out, he's actually on the team. And we had a great conversation. I remember thinking leaving that conversation, that was an incredible conversation. I'm really glad that we had it. And actually, he was the only older guy on the team that had reached out to me at that time. He was the only guy that kind of took me under his wing. So I was really thankful for it. And I was like, this wasn't weird at all. And so then we get to practice a few days later, practice in the games, and I see this nice guy on the field who wasn't weird, but I see him, and he is running around like a unchained just pit bull. He wasn't biting people, but he was big, he was strong, he was fast, and he was like hitting to kill. And I kind of thought he might have had an anger problem, but I was like, man, I like this guy. He's not soft, he's not weird, my kind of guy. Come to find out a couple days later, just through conversations I had with him, that he was growing in his faith, that he was a little bit into it, that he was pursuing his faith, that he was looking at what it meant to follow God, that he was into his faith. And in that moment, my mind was a little bit blown. I was like, man, he wasn't weird, and he wasn't soft. A little bit of an anger issue. Might need to work on that. But I like that guy. And I was like, man, maybe pursuing my faith isn't what I thought. Maybe I don't have to be weird. Maybe I don't have to be soft. Maybe I can be who God has made me to be. And so from that point on, I tried to pursue God like I ought. And even to this day, I think I've been following Christ around 10 years now. I can still have some wrong thoughts about God. Untrue thoughts about God creep into my mind. And when I have those, I don't pursue God like I ought. Right? But don't we all have that? I mean, I think no matter who we are, where we come from, where we're at in our faith, we can all have some untrue thoughts about God. Even if you're the most least spiritual person to the most spiritual person, we can have some untrue, we can have some wrong thoughts about God. And when we do that, it keeps us from pursuing God like we ought. Wrong thoughts about God are very common. They're all over the world, and they're actually all over the Bible. And what we're going to do tonight is we're going to look at a story of a woman who has a lot of wrong thoughts about God, just like you and I. What's going on in this story is it comes from John chapter 4. We got Jesus and his 12 closest followers, his disciples, and they're on this journey. They're going through a place called Samaria, and in Samaria they come to this town called Sychar, S-Y-C-H-A-R. Here's a picture of it here, some of the ruins there from back then. But they come to this town, and they're on a journey, and they're walking, and John 4 says that Jesus actually gets a little bit tired from the journey. So Jesus gets tired. Do you know what he does? I think this is kind of funny. He sits down at this well to get a drink, and then he sends his 12 closest followers off to go get food. He sits down, y'all go get food. Turns out Jesus embraced pledgeship, okay? Which I find funny. Hey, you know what? I'm Jesus, but I'm going to sit here and chill, and you guys go off and get some food, okay? But then this woman comes up to Jesus, and they begin to have a conversation. And it's John chapter 4, verses 7 through 14. And as we read it, see if you can just find some of the woman's wrong thoughts about God. I think you'll be able to identify with at least one of them, if not identify and relate to all of them. So read it with me in John 4. It says this, it says, when a Samaritan woman came to draw water, Jesus said to her, will you give me a drink? He asks her a question. But his disciples had gone into town to buy food. Again, pledgeship. The Samaritan woman said to him, you are a Jew, and I'm a Samaritan woman. How can you ask me for a drink? For Jews do not associate with Samaritans. Jesus answered her, if you knew the gift of God and who it is that asks you for a drink, you would have asked him, and he would have given you living water. It goes on to say this, or she says this, sir, the woman said, you have nothing to draw with, and the well is deep. Where can you get this living water? Are you greater than our father Jacob, who gave us the well and drank from it himself, as also his sons and his flocks and herds? Jesus answered, everyone who drinks this water will be thirsty again. But whoever drinks the water I give him will never thirst. Indeed, the water I give him will become in him a spring of water welling up to eternal life. Did you guys catch or see any of her wrong thoughts? Number one, verses 7 through 9, Jesus comes to her, or she comes to Jesus, and Jesus asks her, will you give me a drink? The woman says, hey, Jesus, you are a Jew, and I'm a Samaritan woman. How can you ask me for a drink? Jews don't associate with Samaritans. At that time, this was very culturally unacceptable. Jews and Samaritans didn't get along. This is breaking all cultural norms for a Jewish person to have a conversation with a Samaritan, especially a Jewish man and a Samaritan woman. There's beef there, like K-State, KU fans, Shaq and Kobe, Cardi B and Nicki Minaj, is there beef there? There's beef, okay? This woman thinks, hey, because of who I am, where I come from, and probably what I've done, Jesus doesn't want to associate with me. Who I am, where I come from, what I've done, Jesus doesn't want to associate with me. Have you ever thought that? Who I am, where I come from, what I've done, Jesus doesn't want to associate with me. It's not true. It's not what you thought. It goes on, verse 11, she says this, sir, the woman said, you have nothing to draw with, and the well is deep. Where can you get this living water? You have nothing to draw with, and the well is deep. Jesus, you can't go down and get me that water. You don't even have anything to carry it in, and you can't go down that far and get it. Do you ever say that to God? Jesus, you got nothing to draw with. You can't actually get me or give me what I need. What I need, the solution I'm looking for, Jesus, you can't give me. Yes, you can. It's not what you thought. Jesus, the well is deep. The well is deep. It's going to be hard to get to. Jesus, my sin is deep. It's going to be impossible for you to forgive it. Or even if you could, it's going to be impossible for me to overcome it. It's deep. Yes, you can overcome it. It's not what you thought. He can give us and get us what we need. And this next wrong thought is the one I currently struggle with. Verse 12, she says this. She says, Jesus, are you greater than our father Jacob, who gave us the well and drank from it himself, as also did his sons and his flocks and herds? She asks, Jesus, are you greater? I started to pursue my faith in college, and up to this point, God's plan in pursuing Jesus has been greater than my plan. It's been satisfying, no doubt. But then sometimes I'm like, man, Jesus, well, well, if I continue to follow you, will you continue to be greater than my own plan, than my own desires? Yes, he will. It's not even what I thought. Right? So often following God is not what we thought. Man, he is different. What's the big deal, right? What's the big deal with having a few wrong thoughts about God? What's the big deal if I'm off a little bit? What's the big deal? In verse 10, Jesus says this. See if you can find what's wrong with it. Jesus answered her, if you knew the gift of God and who it is that asks you for a drink, you would have asked him, and he would have given you living water. If you knew the gift of God and who it is that asks you for a drink, you would have asked him, and he would have given you living water. Did you guys catch it there? What does he say? If you knew. If you knew. Why doesn't the woman ask Jesus for water? Why doesn't she pursue the one who's pursuing her? She doesn't know him. She has some wrong thoughts about him. If she actually knew him, had correct thoughts about him, the one who's pursuing her, man, she would turn around and pursue him. Right? She didn't know. Right? When something is not what we thought, we don't pursue it like we ought. When something's not what we thought, we don't pursue it like we ought. When something's not what we thought, we don't pursue it like we should. If she would have known him, she would have responded to him. If we really know him, we'll respond to him. Let me explain what I mean here. What's this a picture of? Chipotle burrito. Okay. Chipotle fans here? All right. So let's say you just heard from your friends that you never had Chipotle before in your life, but you've heard from your friends that Chipotle is terrible. All right? You've heard that it's terrible, so you formulate this thought that Chipotle is terrible. All right? You've heard that it was terrible from your friends, so you have this thought that Chipotle is terrible. But then one day, I don't know, you just decide to go for it, okay? And you go to Chipotle. I'm more of a bowl guy with the chips. You know, if you're going all out, it gets expensive. But let's say you go there, and you've never had Chipotle before, but you dip that salty chip into that bowl filled with cilantro rice, lettuce, guac, cheese, chicken, the whole nine, and you bite into it. In that moment, what are you thinking? This is not what I thought. My friends were wrong. This is incredibly better than I thought. It was not what I thought. Or let's say here, doing squats. See his hamstrings? These things are hanging. Let's say you read an article or you heard on a blog that squats don't work. All right. As a matter of fact, they make you weaker. They make you slower and they shrink your legs. So that's what you've heard. So that's what you think. That's your thought. Squats don't work. Therefore, you never squat. Okay. But then one day you just get tired of looking like a meathead. You get tired of skipping leg day. Sorry. We'll get there. Okay. Girls know what that is. But then one day you're like, hey, I'm tired of looking like a big dog up top and a little chicken on the bottom, okay? And so I'm just going to go for squats, and you begin to squat. And fellas, your legs get stronger. All your other lifts go up. Your bench goes up. You just get gain after gain after gain, real gains. In that moment, what are you going to think? Man, what I read, what I heard on the blog or the internet was wrong. This is not what I thought. And this whole time, I've not been pursuing squats like I thought, like I should. I've not been pursuing these like I ought to. Online was wrong. I tried it out myself. It works. Or this next picture, girls, you know what this is. Guys, do you know what this is? That a boy. Dry shampoo. Yeah. You got sisters. I had no clue what this was, okay? Let's say, ladies, you just heard through the grapevine. Well, are you a dry shampoo in here? Put your hand up. Okay, we're a few. All right. Hopefully this works. Let's say you hear from the grapevine that dry shampoo is terrible and it never works and it actually takes longer. My wife's indoctrinated here me. We go to Marshall's a lot and buy shampoo. But let's say you heard this through the grapevine. It doesn't work, but then one day you just try to go for it and you try it and you realize, wow, the grapevine was wrong. This is way better than what I thought. I've not been pursuing this like I ought. I'm going to use dry shampoo all the time now. The grapevine was wrong. I need to use it. I've not been pursuing it like I ought. When something's not what we thought, we don't pursue it like we ought. This next one, I just have to eat my words on, okay? Basically, from I formulated this just from what I saw and my own opinion, my own thinking, like a lot of times what we do in our faith, we formulate a thought, we formulate an opinion based on just what I think in my head or the world I've observed around me. So this next one, kid you not, I'm eating my words on. It's not what I thought, and it's this. Yeah. I was like the biggest Lululemon hater, hardcore, and you know, I was, and it was just based on what I thought. And then it is very expensive. But then my mother-in-law, bless her heart, she's a saint. She buys me a pair of Lululemon pants. You guys have a pair of these pants? They're very expensive. I've still never bought anything Lululemon, but she keeps giving things to me. Yeah, and I put these on, and like the moment I put them on, it was for my birthday last year. I put them on. I went to a Chiefs game with my wife, but I put them on. And it's like I don't know, like heaven wrapped around my legs, something like. And I'm like, man, this is heaven's infinitely better than Lululemon. But you guys get what I mean. It's like this is not what I thought. My own opinion, my own mind is wrong. I have not been pursuing Lululemon like I ought. I've actually been hating on it. And now I'm eating my words. Pants are fantastic. Shirts, I don't know. It's jury's still out. When something's not what we thought, we don't pursue it like we ought. And now, the thoughts that are the statements that Chipotle is terrible, squats don't work, dry shampoo isn't good and will waste you time, and Lululemon being uncomfortable, those statements, those thoughts seem pretty ludicrous, right? To anyone who's experienced any of those. Well, crazier thoughts, crazier things have been said about God that just flat out aren't true. And you wouldn't know how comfortable Lululemon is. You wouldn't know if dry shampoo works. You wouldn't know the gains squats can get you. And you wouldn't know how good Chipotle is until you put your thought aside and begin to pursue it like you ought. Same is true for us spiritually. We have no clue how good Jesus is. We have no clue how good Jesus is until we put our false thoughts aside and begin to pursue him like we ought. I promise you, he is way better than you were. He's way better than we thought. He is way better. Untrue thoughts about God can lead to not pursuing him like we ought. Untrue thoughts about God can lead to us not pursuing him like we ought. But correct thoughts about God lead to us pursuing him like we ought. In verse 10, Jesus gives this woman a promise. But why should I pursue God? Is he actually better than what I thought? Why should I do it? Read it with me. Jesus answered her, if you knew the gift of God and who it is that asks you for a drink, you would have asked him, and he would have given you living water. He reiterates it in 13 and 14. Jesus answered, everyone who drinks this water will be thirsty again, but whoever drinks the water I give him will never thirst. Indeed, the water I give him will become in him a spring of water welling up to eternal life. What Jesus is saying here is, hey, if we kind of put our wrong thoughts to the side and begin to pursue him, grow and develop in our faith, Jesus is saying, hey, I'm going to satisfy you. I'm going to give you what you need. I'm not what you thought. I think at the end of the day, I want to be satisfied. Don't you want to be satisfied? Jesus says, hey, if you pursue me like we ought, I'm going to be way better than you thought. You're not going to have to look outside to this, that, and the other for life. If you pursue me, grow and develop in your faith, I'm going to pursue Jesus says, I want to pursue you, and I want to put life inside of you. And it's going to come from within. There's hundreds of stories, thousands, probably millions of stories of people doing this, of realizing God wasn't what I thought. So I began to pursue him, and God has been infinitely better than I thought. Tonight, I wanted you all to hear a personal, real-life example of that. So with that, welcome up, Austin.
Yes, sir. We're here. So for me, it was kind of like Sundays was with my mom and it was with my grandma. And there were no kids at our church, so it was an old people church. And only kids that were there were like the old people's kids, you know? And so it was like we didn't even really get along like that. And so I'm like, they're reading the Bible and stuff. I'm like, well, that's an old book. You know, it just makes sense. It's like the old people read old books at church. And so that's all I knew about church. I was like, well, that's what church is. And I also knew that my cousins and stuff, when times were hard or anything, they'd be like, man, I probably should go to church right now. You know, if life was rough, then they'd go to church, you know, and go try to think about and talk about God or whatever. And so that was what I knew about God. And that's what I knew about church in general. And so I knew that there was nobody that was my age, or at least I had never met anybody that was my age that was really doing it, except one dude in high school. I kid you not. I wish I remembered his name, but he was kind of a distant friend. This dude, every day, kid you not, he wore brown slacks. He wore every single day. He wore a beige button-up shirt tucked in, right? He had a brown belt, brown shoes every day. He had glasses, okay? This man used to bring a suitcase to school every single day, all 4 years to high school. He had a suitcase, and he used to walk like I didn't want to show the walk, but like he used to hunch over like this and be walking around like 15 years old. He was raised by his great granddad and his granddad. I kid you not. I'm like, bro, what is going on? And like everything that came out of his mouth, like he was one of those. See me in the morning, he called me by my last name. I'm like, bro, Mr. McGaw, isn't God good this morning? I was be like, bro, I'm like, yeah, he's good, man, you know. And so that was my idea of what it meant to take your faith serious. I remember one day, some of my friends was like, hey, bro, you drinking with us this weekend? What you doing? He kind of turned and looked at him. He put the glasses down to the edge of the nose, looked over the glasses. He was like, he said, you know better than that. You tell me what Jesus would do. I was like, bro, what? I was like, what? And so that was literally the only thing I thought about, like what it meant to take your faith serious. And so that was just my whole idea. And then I ended up getting here, K-State, and started reading the Word. One of my friends, I had never read the Word before. So my friend he's explaining to me just context. He's explaining to me like who's talking, who's he talking to. And we're really walking away with applications. Like we're really walking away with just practicals and like what the Bible is actually saying. And so I started to pursue God and I was open-minded to it. I was like, why not learn about what the Bible says? Because I realized I never did that. And so I started just stumbling upon a few things as I started to just walk with God. And one thing I stumbled upon was really just God's character. I was like, never knew about it. It's like what God liked. I remember for the first time I was like, I can live my life and actually please God. That threw me off because all I remembered was 15-year-old old man. I'm like, bro, he was, I don't know what his life was like, but that's all I remembered about it. But I remember thinking, like, I can really please God with my life, and that was cool to me. I saw what God loved. I saw what God didn't like, what displeased him. And then something else I stumbled upon that I really didn't think was possible as I started walking with God was fun and, like, genuine friendships. I'm like, that life just looks boring, you know what I mean? And then as time progressed, it was like, of course, it's a different kind of fun, but as over time I started to see I'm having the best fun that I've ever had, or just a more just like genuine fellowship, laughter. I'm like, I've never cried from laughter as much as I've been following Christ. Like before that, it was like I cry sometimes, but like often, just people are funny, and so I'm just like, and it was cool. I'm like, I never would have thought that at all because dude just seems so serious, and at church we read and it's just like church, and I'm like, church, it's like, and so, but then also something else that I stumbled upon was freedom. And so when I say freedom, I just kind of mean like freedom from sin, like sin that's entangled in my life, things, tough thought patterns that I can't get out, like anxiety, like just life is tough sometimes, and it's like, where do I turn to? Don't have people to turn to, and it's like, I've experienced just by following God and reading the Word and staying in it that like freedom is really possible. God, He promises that. He, like it's in the Word. He says it's gonna happen, and so it started happening. And I'm like, man, I just stumbled up on a gold mine almost. And so I just didn't know that's what the Word said, though, you know. And so not until doing it, not until really pursuing God is when I really understood it. And so with that, I'll just welcome back up Rebek.
Thanks, Austin. Stumbled on a gold mine. It's pretty cool. You could put what he said, you could put it like this. If you want to truly live, then figure out who God truly is. If you want to truly live, let's figure out who God truly is. True life is found in the one who gives us life, right? My question for you is this, what are your thoughts about God? What are your thoughts about God? And are any of those thoughts keeping you from pursuing Him like you ought? It could be thoughts like, God, if I follow you, you're going to make my life boring. It's not true. It's not what you thought. It could be like, God, I don't know if I can really trust you with this next step of my life. Yes, you can. It's not what you thought. You may be pursuing your faith for a while, and it may be, God, I don't know if I really should continue. I don't know if I should take that next step. And yes, we should. It's not what we thought. Not what you thought. It exists everywhere, all over our world, in a lot of realms, certainly in the spiritual. And that's what we're going to be talking about for the next half of the semester, about how following God so often isn't what we thought. And we're going to be talking about certain topics, certain thoughts specifically that we all have that can hinder us from pursuing our faith, or growing, or developing, or taking that next step in our faith. We're going to look at thoughts that like, hey, if heaven's just a cloud I sing on, why the heck do I want to go there? Well, that's not a true thought. Heaven is not just a cloud we sing on, thankfully. All right, we're going to cover thoughts like it's impossible to follow Christ in college. It is possible. It's not what we thought. We're going to cover thoughts like, hey, I can't really trust God with my future. Yes, we can. It's not what we thought. There's a lot of things out there that are not what we thought. But we don't know spiritually about God until we, put our thought aside and begin to pursue Him. Because when something's not what we thought, we don't pursue it like we ought. But Jesus says, hey, if we really know Him, the one who's pursuing us, man, we're going to turn around and pursue Him right back. Right? Pursuing Him is what leads to true life. If we want to truly live, let's figure out who God truly is. Father, thank you for tonight, and I pray that you would help us all to do that moving forward, to take that next step in our faith, whether that be coming back here, having a combo with a friend, joining that Bible study. I pray that we would do it. And God, we love you. We thank you for tonight, and we pray these things in Christ's name. Amen.